Welcome back to My Life with Plants. I'm Newman, and today I did some poo. Something stinks. Something's died on the balcony. Did somebody put rubbish out here? No, I don't see anything. Wait a minute. I think I found what stings. Oh my God. It smells so bad. Does anyone know what this is? This is Stapelia. Gigantea. Maybe we need the light on, not sure. This thing is really stinky. It actually just opened yesterday. And there's this big old bud here. This plant is native to South Africa, going right up into Tanzania. So it has a very broad habitat or distribution. And here it is growing in a hanging basket up here on this very hot balcony. And I did get a watering today because this thing really dries out quick. And it's been pretty hot. It's nearly 30 degrees today. Yesterday was 33 degrees. And during September, when the nights get cooler, this thing starts to bud up a lot. So it's covered in buds all over it. It's got many buds, as you can see. And what's interesting is how it has these irrevolute corolla or perianth. The perianth is irrevolute, meaning that it's bent backwards. These big petals on the corona, or the corolla, and they're covered in hairs. This thing's pretty heavy because it just got a water, so I got to put it down. But it has these hairs that go on it that resemble something that's died, and it has these stripes on it, dark reddish maroon stripes on a yellow, off yellow. And check out these hairs. Now, flies will come in to pollinate it. What's interesting is that during overcast or night, at nighttime, no smell will be emitted whatsoever. So it has a clever device that activates only when the sun comes out, and then the smell will emit. And it'll attract usually green bottle flies. Green bottle flies come in. They get confused because they think that something is dead and rotten and they want to lay their maggots or their eggs, and thus there's nothing for the maggots to devour. And what the fly does is it wriggles and it pushes around inside the flower here, right into the center where the mechanism is, and it'll get its leg caught. And as it's trying to free itself, it'll be a lump of pollen that comes in. It's just a big lump, sticky lump of pollen. And then it'll go to the next flower and repeat what it's been doing before, trying to look for some lay eggs because it's confused by the stinky smell emitting from the flower. and thus pollination is done. So I actually have more of these plants right up here, and something I want to talk about is these plants are not in flower. So we do have a fly here. See one buzzing around. These ones are not in bud and they may not even flower. So it's always handy to have stock plants. So maybe your stock plants are not doing as well as the main, but they do have their purpose. And the purpose is backup in case the main plant dies. They don't have to perform well or bloom or even thrive, as long as they have good, healthy enough growth, just in case. And today I want to show you these because they just opened. In contrast, there's a fly right here, look. It's been attracted by the Stapelia, so it's coming in, because usually we don't see any flies. Right, lovely lemon fragrance, so much better than stinky Stapelia. I actually have some seedlings of this. They just started germinating. Alright, and we have Haematocactus haematocanthus, or Ferrocactus haematocanthus. This one is a big old specimen, and it's flowering a lot. So check out those golden blooms there. Also has a lovely fragrance, and it is a big plant, as you can see there. Very tall, very big, and it always flowers at this time of the year, late summer. I did water everything because today was supposed to be mainly cloudy. Everything was pretty dry. So getting back to Stapelia here, you can see some of the stems have flopped over, and that's just because it has a pretty high demand for water. It gets very thirsty and the stems will flop over. So I did have a good watering. It's watered every 2 to 3 days at least. Although it seems that I watered this yesterday and it's dried out already, and I gave it another water. And what I'm going to do this winter is I'm going to unpot it. Alright, you can imagine what happened just then. It's very hot out there. It's about 30 degrees, and the camera overheated. So you can see here that I'm going to show you some close-up and full images of the Stapelia gigantea as I continue talking about it. So you can see that this one is in bud. It's got plenty of buds on it. It's in its happy spot and its perfect growing conditions that are right there on the balcony. I've tried growing it on the west side of the house. In that particular location, much cooler in the morning, and about the afternoon, from about 3 o'clock, or during September anyway, from about 3 o'clock or 2:30 to 2 o'clock, maybe 2 o'clock during summer. The sun will reach around there, and I may get some afternoon sun for a few hours, possibly 2 or 3 hours. And what I noticed is in that particular location, late afternoon sun wasn't quite enough, and there wasn't as many buds or flowering as there is with having the Stapelia getting sun from the whole morning through most of the day until the late afternoon. It requires quite a lot of direct sun to get it to bloom and bud up a lot, and it's a very thirsty plant, so it likes a lot of water. As you can see that the flowers are quite fleshy, so they use up a lot of water, and you can tell because as I showed you before, the stems flop over and they can feel quite soft. I don't know if I got it on camera or not, but I do have 2 more plants of Stapelia gigantea just as a backup. They don't have to flower and they don't have to be spectacular. They're just there as a backup in case the main plant dies. I did have shade cloth hanging over the main specimen that's flowering there all through the summer because the amount of sun is very, very intense. As you know, it gets up to 43 degrees easily on that balcony. Having it hanging helps the plant to maintain a cooler root system as compared to having a plant that's sitting directly on the balcony, which can overheat the root system. So plants that tend to be sitting on the balcony are sitting on something so that they're not heating up too much. Yes, so Stapelia gigantea is the easiest of all the Stapelias to grow. Not only is it large, it's fast growing. All it requires is a well-drained mix. I don't have any sand or pumice or anything in the mix that you see my Stapelia growing in. It's just growing in carnuma. Carnuma is a very porous clay that almost looks like pumice, but it crumbles in your fingers. It's friable. It's light and it retains water. It also evaporates really quickly. So it's not sticky and it doesn't suffocate the roots. You can grow mosses in it too, especially ones that are like resurrection ferns, selaginellas, and cacti, succulents, and you can even grow rapiculus orchids in it. They really like growing in it without any problems whatsoever. Okay, it's not sticky and doesn't retain water any more than after you water it, it'll start to evaporate off quite quickly. And it does have some akadama in it because that contains a lot of micronutrients and promotes good health, healthy root growth, and those two combined together is a nice well-draining mix. So I don't have to use sand or grit or anything, but if I didn't have those ingredients I definitely would use it. But it can be expensive. River sand here is for about 5 pounds of river sand is the equivalent of $5 US, and that is the cheapest kind of well-draining mix besides pumice and stuff like that, which is far more expensive. Yeah, what else can I say about it? Stapelia gigantea has been actually introduced into other countries where it's actually become part of the flora. Places like Hawaii, it's kind of gone rampant, and it often grows a lot along the coastal beaches and stuff like that, but it's not causing any ecological imbalance or harm, so it's left alone to grow. During the winter time, it can take temperatures down to about 10 degrees, although after that there's no point keeping it out any longer. Once the freeze comes, the plant will die. So I will not unplant it, and I won't take cuttings anymore. I'll just leave it in the pot. You can put it somewhere where it's away from a window. It doesn't require any window. All it requires is unheated room. So definitely no heat in that room, cool and well ventilated, and it can remain in pristine condition. It won't even grow, it won't lose any color, and it won't degenerate one little bit. It'll stay pristine, even right away from a window. If it does get really, really floppy and dehydrated, you can give it a little water and it won't harm it. It won't make it rot. Probably a pot like that, I would give it a quarter of a cup of water, and that would just help it through for the next 2 to 3 weeks. Here it's dry during the winter and a lot of sunshine, but we get temperatures that can go right down to -8, even -10 degrees. So generally it's quite dry inside. Those of you who live in a wet winter climate, and temperatures don't go as cold as what I just said, like -8, you might get a drop down to 0, -1, and you keep it inside, the humidity won't bother it. It's got a pretty good defense system against fungus and fungal spores and stuff like that. But if you do notice that it might have a slight outbreak, you can just give it a good spray with a fungicide. It can help it too. I have had a kind of a Stapelia variety that's unicornis, I think it is, that is quite prone to humidity in the winter, and it gets kind of a black fungal rot that kind of eats into the stems, and I had to spray it with like a sulfur based fungicide. But Stapelia gigantea is much hardier, and it can grow right up into Tanzania, and Tanzania is more of a tropical African country where it's much more in the tropics, so much more rainfall, higher humidity, and not much of a winter whatsoever. It's quite kind of mild winter, it doesn't get cold. And Stapelia gigantea actually grows there on rocky outcrops. We're very well drained soils, and so overall it's a very hardy plant, easy to grow. I've always enjoyed growing it, and I like to show it on my channel here every year. I've never had it pollinated, maybe because I just don't have enough of it growing around. Yeah, so it requires a lot of direct sun from morning till late evening. Lots of high heat, direct sun. It needs some protection from midsummer. If you get temperatures that can go over 35 degrees, then it may require some shading, but not too much. That shade cloth is nylon. So I've heard that a comment about shade cloth can actually make the plant hotter because it attracts heat. But nylon repels heat, so if you put up a nylon shade cloth and you actually step behind it to test it out, you actually feel much cooler. So it does have a cooling effect, and it reflects a lot of the sun rays, it scatters them, so they don't concentrate directly, kind of like a magnifying glass. It breaks up the sun's direct energy, dissipates the sunshine and reflects it in different directions, which cools off any plant that's behind it. And that's about all for today, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.